Welcome, everybody, to the Table Rush Talk Show. I'm your host, Mischa Zvegintzov. Today, I have a fascinating guest, JJ Reynolds, the analytics aficionado from Vision Labs. JJ is a master at turning clicks into actionable strategies, helping businesses optimize their growth with data driven precision. In this episode, we delve into the power of data and how you can use it to elevate your marketing game. Get ready for an insightful conversation with JJ Reynolds. JJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a blast. I know it already.
Yeah. And you know what? My guess is whenever you walk through the door, everybody goes, yikes, the data guy. You're the one who proves whether things are working or not, or can it work better, or you've got the numbers to prove what's working and what's not. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So usually it comes down to people that are either super excited because they know that they have a problem and they're like, we need to fix this fixed, or people that are really scared because they know they've been running blind and don't want to know the answers. And so that's the two sides of people. You either run towards me or away from me whenever I start talking to you.
Yeah, cool. I love that perspective. And so anybody listening, watching, you can go to visionlabs.com, and you can follow along and see what JJ is talking about and what he does. But let's just dive right into it. What do you do with Vision Labs? What is it that you do? Who do you help? Talk to me.
Yeah, so Vision Labs, we are a measurement agency. And I know it sounds really odd, and there's not a lot of those in the world, but we work with companies to measure their marketing and improve kind of their operations and systems behind that. What we like to say is like the measurement culture is what we try to instill, where you ask a question, meaning, hey, I've got a question. I don't care what your question is. It could be something I don't even know about. But you behind that question, you have an action to take. So you know what you're going to do with the answer. A lot of times businesses just ask questions of like, what's my LTV? And 99% of the time, people barely know what LTV is. And also just try to say lifetime value is something that everyone's talking about. And so usually you want to try and have a question and an action of if this is this, then we're going to do something about it. And that's what our company does. We bolt on to other businesses and we operate as a measurement department. So all things tracking, all things reporting, all things strategization around how to get better data, better insights, and better actions. That's the quick of it right there.
Cool. So, I'm always thinking, looking at everything from marketing. So, you know, or what's your ROI on this? Or can we see measurable results, things like that? But are you focused mostly towards marketing, or are you do you have a broader thing of what you measure? And does that question make sense?
Yeah, no, we're usually we start with marketing. Marketing is the biggest pain point of measuring and knowing what to do for most businesses, large and small. We work with companies doing 1 million and 100 million. Like we have everything in between. And so even if you're small, regardless of what you think of small, like it's always funny whenever you say like small, medium, and large, and people have different ideas in their mind of like when you only have $10,000, you're like 100,000 would be amazing. But then the person that's at 100,000 is like 1 million would be oh my goodness. When you're at a million, you're like, 10 million. So everybody thinks they're small in the grand scheme of things. But usually everyone has the same problems of not knowing what to do with their marketing, and they're not measuring what matters, and they're not acting on the feedback loop that they have.
So you said three interesting things: not knowing what to do, not knowing what to measure, and then what was the third thing you said?
I believe not knowing what questions to ask.
Not knowing
Um,
what.
yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
questions, what to measure, and then what to do.
There we go. So let's start with number one. So what questions should we be asking? Or yeah,
Yeah, so I would say the questions that you should be asking are the ones that you can influence. And what I say by that is, okay, so let's just take something very tactical. We're gonna go extremely tactical and then we're gonna go extremely high level. So very tactical. What was our click-through rate for email X? right? Like we sent an email. What was our click-through rate of that email? And if I tell you it is 12%, okay? Like I tell you, your click-through rate is 12%. What does that mean to you? And if you don't know, then you're not asking the right question, right? You might not even be an email. Like you might not be the email person. Like you're like, hey, I don't know anything about email. But if you're in your head, you're like, oh my goodness, we sent to 10,000 people and had a 12% click-through rate. We should send that email again, or we need to double down on that offer. Like now you have an action where if you didn't know what to do, if I told you 12% and like in your head, like alarm bells didn't go off or like you weren't super excited, like then it's not the right question for you.
I love that. That's so great. So give me some ideas of what other questions you hear or you ask or answer or go along that vein. So
Yeah.
yeah, the email question is so great to the right person that's listening right now and hears that. They're like, oh yeah, great. So give me some other questions that may or may not resonate with people.
Yeah. So I'd say like if you say like which ad do we spend the most money on? Is another question. So uh like if you run ads, like for example, Facebook ads, you might have 100 ads running at once. Like which ad is spending the most money? And let's just say one ad is taking up 60% of your budget. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Right. And to the right person, that question is very helpful. And you know what to do with that answer. Like you would, if you were a paid media person, you might be like, oh my goodness, we need to make more ads that are similar to this because it's getting more market share, it's getting more of these pieces. Or you might have the opposite thing of saying, oh my goodness, we need to have more diversification because one ad is getting 60% of the market share for our ad account, right? And so those questions that we're asking really make your actions much better. The better of a question that you can ask, the better of an action you can take. And when we work with larger companies, and I say larger being like they have more than 5 people in marketing, let's just define that as larger. Um, there's kind of these 3 levels of questions. You have the practitioner question: what was our click-through rate for this this one campaign, right? Campaign X. You kind of have the manager question of like, what's our click-through rate this month, right? What are we averaging this month? And then you can have the C-suite of like how is email doing? And that's a very broad question, right? Like maybe they judge it by number of sends, number of recipients, and number of like clicks, like volume based. Those are very different questions that you're having that are all in the same vein, right? But each person knows what to do with that, right? Like the C-suite might not 14% click the rate on an email. I don't give a hoot. Like, what's that going to do for me? But they're a C-suite person, but they're like, hey, email, we only sent out 6 emails and we only had this thing. Like, okay, like we need to fix that. Let's get like, what's our marketing department doing?
I love that. This is great perspective. And are you are you having is your company having that conversation? Are you asking those questions up and down that 3 levels that you said? So practitioner, manager, C-suite, was that the 3 that you said?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get brought into a company and you're it's probably depends. My guess is you get brought in at any of those levels. Sometimes it's the C-suite who's like, man, get Vision Labs in here, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, we
go
have
ahead.
very different. It's remarkable. Like the different types of. We have people coming to us that are practitioners that like I am managing. Like just today, I had a call with a practitioner who is managing the ad account of a 150 different location franchise, and they're like, well, I can't report on this. It's impossible. Like I don't have the ability to do it. And so it's a very tactical problem. Very tactical. Like this is the problem. Sometimes we get brought in and we are like, they don't know what's happening. We're like, we are running marketing, like double air quotes here if you're listening. And we don't have questions that we're asking. We don't have a feedback loop for reporting. And we don't have a system in place to ask questions and then do something about it. And so we'll come in and be like, okay, we're going to do everything from setting up Google Analytics to like setting up Tag Manager to getting pixels firing to setting up like your databases to like kind of the whole 9 yards to building a reporting system and measurement system that you're able to iterate off of. And so it varies wildly. We have the pleasure and the opportunity to talk to people that are like high level C-suites to like in the weeds, pushing the buttons and everything in between.
Give me the perspective of the the person who is at that point where they're obviously generating enough business, they're ready to scale. They've proved concept. They have some case studies in line. They're this is their thing, right? They know it works, and they have a vision of their avatar or target market or who they're going to help, and they come to you and they say, "All right, we need this. We need ads manager. We need Google Analytics. We need pixels. We need all this stuff rolling." Like, how's that conversation going? What are you seeing? What Give me a picture of that person, where they are in their business. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're like like solo, right? You're running yourself, you're doing something, whatever that is. I'm gonna just say you're doing web design, just for the sake of like having something very time. You do web design, you're like, hey, I've got clients that have paid me. I've done this thing in the past. Hey, it's working out pretty well. From there, like your questions should start as how many conversations am I having? And how many people are exposed to my message, to my conversations? And how many of those conversations are turning into dollar bills, right? And that's like it sounds very simplistic, but if you, however you plan to get people, like the furthest out you could get is like number of impressions on social media or number of website views, right? Those are kind of different levels. And so you could start, let's just say that you post on LinkedIn. That's how you get people. So you have LinkedIn, let's say you had 10,000 impressions this month. Then you could say how many people visited your website. And let's just say, I don't know, 1,000 people visited your website. And of those 1,000 people, you got 10 people that booked a call or submitted a form. And of that form submission, you got 2 new projects. You now have a way to improve. So that's kind of what I'd say is like to that person who's right there, like that's what I would say is measure each one of those every single week for the previous week or every single month, depending on kind of your cadence. Daily doesn't really help often. And then go from there.
Is that Can you help somebody who's in that space that you just mentioned, or are they getting ready to graduate to needing you next level? So
Yeah.
that yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we have like a training program where we kind of do it like asynchronous. So like if you would like to join that, it's called the lab, and that's where we kind of teach people how to use measurement as a system. And everything from Google Analytics to like reporting APIs. It gets really techy and also really strategic. We kind of cover both. As you've probably heard me in this conversation, I'm getting like very tactical and then also very high level in the same sentence sometimes. And that's what the lab is, where we talk through all of that. So if you want to check that out, like that's what I'd recommend if you're in that like sub 1 million kind of solo plus contractor perspective. Um, that's where I'd recommend either how you do it or somebody in your contractor and company joins for a bit there.
Well, I'm staring at that right now. Visionlabs.com forward slash lab. So everyone watching, listening, go to visionlabs.com /lab. And you've got this lab that people can join, become a
Yeah.
member. Literally says, know exactly what drives your business without relying on guesswork or gut feel. And then you've got videos, you've got all sorts of, it starts getting a little techno babblish, which is amazing because that's what that person probably needs at that point. They need to start learning that language, learning what those things mean to break through that barrier or that pain point to level up and be
Yeah.
able to
I would say
go.
like most of the time you need like this is a really if you've seen the Minions movie, the name of the villain in the Minions is Vector, right? He wears an orange jumpsuit for anybody who hasn't seen it before. There's a line in that movie which is so gold and so overlooked is that his name is Vector and uh it's direction plus acceleration or velocity. Velocity plus direction is a vector. Like that's what it is in like geometry or physics or whatever the heck that is. And if you don't have a vector, meaning you don't have a direction and you don't have velocity, no amount of data is going to help you because you're not moving. You're not moving anywhere. Like there's no data to look at. Like you're not moving. And so like I am not a marketing guru in the sense of like you're at zero, I'm gonna get you to $10,000 a month. Like that's not like I don't subscribe to that whole thing. But like people that have velocity and teams and companies that have velocity and have a direction, they are trying to hone in on how do we do this better, more reliably, and more predictably. And that's where measurement comes into play. And I'm not going to like, I would say don't join the lab if you don't have velocity or don't have clients with a vector in mind. And so that's my like quick like child movie. If you like, there's a clip, you just Google like Vector explains himself. It's like the best because it's really funny, better than I could do.
Amazing. And then you've got your the follow the lab 5-step process. Follow the lab 5-step process. Step 1, strategic roadmap. Step 2, learn the tools. Step 3, develop your skills. Step 4, seek guidance. Step 5, stay cutting edge. Maybe give me a minute or two on step 1, and then we'll go same 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, like I think we could even spend less time on that because it is important, but like I think that if I'm in your earballs right now, like you probably don't want to get too deep into this, but basically the idea behind what we've built is that you have to understand which questions you're asking, and we built a roadmap to kind of get you there. Then you have to understand the technical aspects of things. Like there is a level of technical knowledge to knowing how the internet works, and that helps you build better reporting. And that's like it sounds really like, oh, of course, when I said it out loud, but you'd be surprised at nobody knows how like Google Ads actually works. Nobody understands how like pixels are placed. How do you report on something externally of that platform? You've got to understand that. Then you're gonna try to improve that. So you're trying to build something that's better than what you already have. Like we call it the foresight system is what we use, but like you could build whatever framework you want. I do not care. Like we're there to help you kind of get into an iterative cycle. And then you then have to revise and revisit that entire process. And then lastly, stay cutting edge. And what we do in the lab is every Monday, our head of like client success, Stockton, and myself record a video where we talk through what we're seeing in the marketplace as a whole. And so that way everybody inside of the lab sees every single Monday where we record a video on top of like the courses and other things that we have in the community there for you to see like what we're seeing from our vantage point. And that's not published anywhere else but in the lab. So that's my quick sales pitch. Don't have to spend more time if you don't want to.
No, I love it. I there's a community aspect to it. There's relevant content, new relevant tactical strategical content being published every week by you. And I think when I'm looking at this, your partner's in here somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, there he
Stockton,
is.
he's
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of just look at it's like an internal podcast where we just kind of just talk to people that are in the lab. It's kind of cool because about 20% of people watch it. So like that's a very high engagement level for like
Yeah.
a subscription kind of thing. Because we're sharing every single week, kind of what we worked on last week, what we work on next week, and then what we're kind of seeing in the marketplace. We kind of pick a topic to riff off of, and try to keep it just like real, right? Like this is what we're doing. We're an agency that works with businesses, usually between like I'd say on average, our companies that we work with are doing 5 million kind of at a low end. Some are less, like some are 3 million, etc. But like it just depends on the business model. But that way, if you're running a business or you're trying to work with clients and you're working with that smaller, you don't have to engage with us. You could just like join the lab and then you can ask your questions and we respond and help out. And our team is in there too.
This is very cool. I just found the prices. There's a whole offer stack, total value $99,452. However, you can get a quarterly membership for $397 or an annual membership for $1497. How many people are in the lab community at any given time or going through this
Yeah, we've had
process?
like 100 and change. Like little like we have less than 200, more than 100. Um, and most people are in there a long time. Like we have a very low like churn out rate. People stay in for a long time. Yeah.
This is awesome. So people join, they stay in for a long time, they're learning good stuff, they're getting do people stay or do they I guess the goal obviously is hopefully people graduate to that 5 million plus level so then they can take more advantage of one-to-one services, perhaps, if you want to say it that way. Do people stay in the lab once they've reached that level, and so they're keeping a team in there, or how does
Yeah,
that
so
roll?
usually what'll happen is most of the people in there are like either contractors or small agencies or internal team that is very specific to like kind of tech. I call it technical marketing for lack of better terms, where you're kind of understanding and building out reporting and things. Um, yeah, so most people stay in there. It's like I say relatively low cost because there's a lot of other courses that cover what we cover that are like each one of them is $2,000. And so like people stay in because we keep adding new stuff to it and like we keep building out as we see the market move, we just keep adding things. And it's again, I am not here to schlep like a course or membership at all. Like our business is agency. Like we are an agency that does this service and work with clients for a long period of time. We just had a lot of people knocking on our door asking, and so we built the lab because of that. And we don't really push it. We don't really try to get people in. Like this is probably the most I've talked about this in a long time. I kid you not. And so like we don't really try to get people in there, but we people join, people like hang out, ask questions, do all the things in there. So yeah.
I love it. And I'm sorry, we can change the subject, but I'm truly interested and
Oh
truly
no, like
fascinated. So but if you're
happy to
like,
do,
I
happy
don't
to
like
go into
talking about
any.
this,
No,
huh?
happy to dive into it as deep as you want to. I just like it was like it's like I was want to make it super clear that like hey like I'm happy to talk through numbers, talk through anything if you want. Like I'm happy to go as deep or as broad as far as it's I'm here to answer the questions.
Oh, I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at some of the modules that are in here, and I'm hearing about the community, and I'm hearing the value you bring, and so I'm instantly thinking there's a slice of my listenership that is would find tremendous value in this, and will probably get ideas just by hearing about what we're talking about, and perhaps be inspired. That's
Yeah.
inevitably what happens, whether to go learn it on their own or to learn it this way, right? Where they're like, oh, this is accessible information. I am at the point where I need to know these kinds of things, or sick my team on it, or get a VA,
Yeah.
my VA on it, or what have you, right? Um,
Exactly.
so perhaps I'm just rolling through some of the who's the lab for? Mid-sized businesses, solopreneurs, data professionals, media buyers. Um, Before we dive into each of that a little bit, I just want to roll through some of the courses. Looker Studio, Google BigQuery, Value Delivery, Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics 4, APIs, how to use APIs so you can link everything, right?
Hmm.
So that pulling of the data is automated, right? Google
Yeah.
Tag Manager, Foresight. A lot of people listening might be you're boring me, but I'm guessing a lot of people are going, yeah, this is stuff that I need to know. And you've got it in a really cool spot. So we've got Shopify tracking, tagging, and advanced tactics, UTM training, a hyper applicable strategy. But anyway, so there's a lot of stuff in there. Do you have live coaches in there, or are people posting questions and then you're answering them? How's that working?
Yeah. So we currently have like basically like both myself, Stockton, we have got like all of our team in there as well. But honestly, like we'll try to answer all the questions, like because it keeps us to the ground of like what problems you're experiencing. So we can make sure that the program keeps evolving. And so yeah, if someone joins, like you can book a call with us. Like that's like one of the things that you get. Like when you join the lab, you get like an introductory call where we try to understand where you're going in your journey, what will be the most applicable to you, and then can suggest the roadmap that would make the most sense to where you are. And then we try to iterate the program over time to make it better and better. Uh, and yeah, people seem to really like it, and it is super uh, like there's a lot of technical stuff. Like we do talk about like how the internet works, which is like like it's really funny because 9 times out of 10 you will improve like your ad spend, your reporting, everything if you just set everything up correctly. But correctly is such a vague and ambiguous thing that the documentation usually of the platforms is usually not even done correctly. So Um, yeah, that's what we do on the side, and it's people really do enjoy it.
That's cool. So we've got media buyers, and so I'm imagining of the who's the lab for mid-sized businesses, solopreneurs, data professionals, media buyers. I'm starting on the right and working left. Anybody watching Vision Labs or listening, visionlabs.com/lab. But media buyers, I'm guessing media buyers, you're saying, hey, you want to help serve your clients better who you're buying the media for. You want to be able to report to them better or improve results, or tell me a little bit about that. Maybe riff on that for a second. What's a media buyer?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
media buyers, there's two core functions. Uh, is one, it's like having the best tracking and understanding how it's set up, which most people don't have set up like correctly. So like if you have whatever platforms you're running on, you understand that. The second thing is having reporting that you can have make sense to whoever you're talking to, like to clients, to bosses, to teams, whoever it might be. Um, and so that reporting function is very important. So we have a whole training on Looker Studio, which is a dashboarding tool, as well as individual trainings for media buyers specifically of like, hey, how is this value being delivered? Because there is an element of communication that has to take place about what value you are delivering, because theoretically anybody could go run ads on their own, right? They put their credit card in, hit go, and then Facebook and Google will do something like they will spend your money somehow. And so your value that you're deriving or delivering to either a client, a boss, like whoever you're working with is really tied to your communication of how you're saying the value is being delivered. And so that's one thing that we really try to focus on is a strategy of understanding like what you're doing in relation to the bigger picture of a business and how you're reporting on that as a whole.
Do you have a favorite story around a media buyer who's come through your lab and it's helped, I don't know, transform their business? Maybe that's too broad or too loose, or who I'm envisioning a fledgling or relatively successful media buyer. You're at one of the side benefits is they're literally learning how to talk about the value that they're bringing, and they're able to quantify it, which some people tactically, strategically, that's very powerful, where some people might not be able to have that conversation. Or now you're saying have that conversation effectively. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like I'm trying to think about the media buyers that have come through. So we kind of have two different paths that media buyers take, like on their own volition. Like we're not like forcing you into a path. It's either one, they end up becoming like measurement professionals where they end up building out reporting and kind of doing what we're doing um as clients because for our clients, because you have to understand media buying in order to build really good reporting systems. Like you just have to. Um and so people go that way, or they'll go the other route of they'll understand how and why everything's set up the way it is and be able to implement something better for their clients. And so then they just become a better media buyer. So they take their personal experience with how they do things and then apply this framework of being able to have a better way of asking questions and a better way of getting answers, and ultimately tying it to an action. And so, like, there's kind of two paths there that you can take. I was a media buyer originally. Like, I used to run Facebook and Google ads before I even knew what anything was about like how data worked. So I have that kind of background there.
And that was my intro, or one of the intros I saw for you, some of your history, 10 years in the internet space. Was that pre 10 years, or is that within your 10-year journey that this ad
Yeah, I
buying?
think it was like probably before that, honestly. I kind of rounded it to 10 years, but yeah, like I originally like just for everyone who is curious is like I originally I was a videographer. So I'd make videos for clients. I lived in the Napa Valley of California and I would make a lot of winery videos about like promotional videos and about videos and kind of interviewing really bougie people that like owned wineries and had I remember one time really tangent not related at all what I'm talking about, but I interviewed a winery owner and at the end of the interview, the person who was interviewing was like that belt was $10,000 that woman was wearing. And I was like, I am not qualified to be in the presence of someone who's wearing a $10,000 belt. Um, and so I started out as a media buyer, realized that nobody understood what to do with this media. I was in the Napa Valley, so like honestly, it was like the clientele, like they weren't thinking about the internet. They were thinking more about local and those type of things. But what usually would happen is that video would just be put onto like their about page, which is where videos go to die. And I was like, hey, there's this thing called Facebook that if you push this boost button, you can get an extra 10,000 views in for $5 or whatever it was. Like it was back when it was way cheap. So I just started smashing the boost button and I was like, check this out. We got 7,000 views on this video that would have gotten six on your about page, and started to get deeper and deeper into like the actual, like, how do you do media buying? And ended up running ads for like a couple different like companies at once, kind of went the contractor route and ended up dropping the entire content creation aspect and was just running Google ads and Facebook ads together for companies for a while there. Slowly realized that nobody like what kept happening is I work with bigger and bigger companies who then would want to go to a bigger agency, right? Like you're a contractor, you're a solo person. There are agencies that have 20, 50, 100 people, right? So that they can do everything. But then they're like, can we keep your reporting? And I was like, oh, hey, like they understand the value that I'm providing as far as building out reporting that like really makes sense to them. And so then what I did is I split my invoices to then have like media buying and like data and analytics. And then would just drop the media buying when they go to a bigger agency, which I couldn't compete with. Like I couldn't be like, oh yeah, I'll run $1 million a month in ads as a single person without any team or creative, like all of those pieces. But then they keep the analytics part. And so for a long time, that's what I did. And then over the past, I don't know, 3, 4 years, started to build out more of a team. And that's how we now have Vision Labs as a company, not just JJ, the person who would make videos and some other types of things there.
That's an amazing story. I love it. I love how the journey is so good. Do you remember the time or the day where you were like, this analytics, this reporting is extremely powerful and I'm good at it and this is where I need to play?
Yeah, I think it's when like other people in the analytics space were like, how did you do that? And I was like, what do you mean? Like I just built this because I thought like that would be helpful, right? And that was when I started realizing that people like actually were like, wow, this is like special of how you're doing this. And that's when I started to be like, okay, how do I think about this? Okay, I think about like in this framework, and like this is how you get to an actual useful report as opposed to a report that just gets filed away into the trash, which a lot of reports do, right? I'm like, if anybody's listened to this that has any type of reporting, 90% of your reporting does not matter. I guarantee it. Like 100% hands down guarantee. You could make it a lot better by spending a few hours on that and developing the skill to do it. And whoever you're reporting to is going to share that with their friend, and you're going to get more clients because your reporting is so good. And then that business owner talks to another business owner, like, oh, I've got my reporting. Look at this thing. Boom. I know exactly what to do. And then the other business owner is like, I don't have that. Like, I need that. And then now you could like either sell your service of like running ads or building websites or whatever else and deliver that same thing. And now there's something to talk about on top of your normal service, right? I built a website, cool, but I also delivered this thing that like was an extra or an add-on or a bonus or whatever else. And your reporting is so good that they have to talk about it to somebody else.
I love that. And in a lot of the circles that I'm in right now, memberships or continuity programs or sort of all the rage, not sort of, they are all the rage. I think reporting is such a value add for continuity. Just the reporting itself could be the continuity, the monthly, weekly, quarterly reporting.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
It's a whole thing. Like, if you want, like, I'm going to butcher this, but if you go to like, I think it's visionlabs.com/lab/courses,
Okay.
there's a course there that is just on building a better dashboard. It's like it's a dashboard design course. And that's the only thing that we have that's like standalone. I think everything else, that page is hidden. Like if you hear this and you go by that, I know you came from here because I don't think you can even access that page on the website. And it's the only way to get into that course outside of like I don't even know. Like it's all in the lab. So like the whole like my sales pitch, which is a terrible sales pitch, everybody, is that like everything is included in the lab. So like if you're gonna buy a one-off course, go buy the lab for a quarter, and like if you don't like it, then you churn out. I don't like I care, like I do care, but like I think that you're gonna like it so much that like it's like just go do that. And also if you want, go buy that one course. I think it's $147 right now. Um, and you get access to that. And if you buy the lab, I'll refund you the like original like amount of the course because like I'm not trying to take money from people. Like I feel like that's one thing that like a lot of people that sell education, not that we're here on an ethics thing, is like you sell education and then you stop doing the thing of like being an agency or doing the thing. I like 95% of our revenue from our agency is doing the work.
Mm.
The education is just fun.
Mhm.
Like I just enjoy doing it. And so like the members that were in there are like, oh, this is fun. And it takes like a few hours a week for us to do it, maintain it, etc., like iterate on it. But like I'm okay if it goes to zero tomorrow because we're doing it to have fun. We're not doing it in the sense of like this is what we have to sell. Here's my VSL. Like you got to buy this or else it's going to zero. I'm like, it's literally this amount of money. It's never discounted. It never changes. I don't even email you about it. The only way you can do that, you go to a website, is to learn with us and you can join. And like that's it. So like not that we're here on like a high horse of like, oh, buy my thing only if you want to, but like we really do just do it because it's fun and we get to answer people's questions a lot and we get to like step out of the agency service providing with these really big clients or clients that have different problems. And we can be like, how do I measure my Kajabi sales page? And I'm like, oh, I don't do that normally because none of our clients use Kajabi, but now I know how, and so here you go.
It's amazing. Yeah, and to just inspire people to I'm inspired. Your presentation or your delivery is inspiring. And so
Oh,
I
one.
appreciate that. Go ahead, go.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Like I'm always, thank you for the compliment. The one thing I will say, if you're still listening and you're like typing down things, hey guys, like shoot me an email or like find me on LinkedIn and say I listened to this far. But also visionlabs.com/demo, just like that. Like that's our actual data of our agency site. Like we're super transparent. I'm not like trying to pull a quick one, but like that's the real data. Like you can see how many people view the sales page for like the lab. Like it's there. Like you can see how many people clicked the buy button on the lab. Like you can see all the stats there. And we use that as like a demo just to be like, hey, like we'll show you how to build this. Um, and like it's our actual agency data. Like that's the number of sessions. I look at that report every week. Like that's what I use to optimize and improve. And I have other stuff for other things, but like that's real.
That's awesome. So visionlabs.com /lab/courses, which is the first one you said, and it literally says your road to activating your data starts here, and then you've got where you can get that course that you referenced. And was that the dashboard design mastery? That
Yeah.
is that what you were referencing? Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
staring at it. So definitely, if that's real, you just said it. There it is. You can get it. You can play with that. And if you like it, dear listener, and decide to join the lab, he will refund the 149 and apply it towards your lab membership. I think that's what I heard you say, something along those lines.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah,
there
amazing.
we go.
There we go. So I hope that's what you said, or else I just did it for you. Um, but so visionlabs.com /data. Is that what you said?
Demo,
Demo.
DEMO.
So
Yeah.
/lab / demo, or just
Just forward
uh
slash demo. Like it's always
okay.
hard on these podcasts. You're like, oh yeah, visionlabs.com/demo.
Demo.
That will load a report there of all of our agency, like all the our website's data.
I'm staring at it, everybody. This is pretty stinking awesome. So this is a true thing. Visionlabs.com /demo.
Yep.
I think, yeah,
Yeah, that's
awesome.
it. Yeah, it'll redirect you there. And that's like you can poke around, you can filter, you can see, hey, how much traffic does this guy get from organic, from YouTube, from any of those things? How many leads are they generating? Which lead magnets are most popular? Like all of those questions, like you can answer.
This is awesome. And this is amazing. Yeah, this is fun. This is cool. All right. So you have some roots in media buying, so you're proficient in that. I think it's cool that your inspiration too was were basically presented two paths, uh, grow a media buying team, business, call it what you will, or lean even more into analytics, and you were inspired to lean more analytics. And it's very cool. So any transformational stories on any of your media buyer cohorts, or who's gone through that channel? Or
Yeah, like I'd say that like the one thing about data is that the promise that like we make is you have more visibility. Like that's the promise, right? But like it's up to you to act on that data. And that's where like your skill of be doing whatever you do, if you build websites, if you do CRO, if you media buy, is unlocked with the visibility. But if you aren't good at the thing, it just unlocks the fact that you're not good or like you don't know what's happening, right? And a lot of our media buying people are like, "Oh, this is amazing. Like now I can like optimize, I can do this better. I now understand how the UTMs flow from Facebook to Google Analytics into the CRM and I understand what I'm doing." And that's usually the case. That visibility unlocks the ability for you as a media buyer or as a CRO or as a website builder to then build and do better and faster because you now have like imagine if you just have a bad vision, right? And then it's everything's blurry and you're like, I guess I can you can still play some sports, right? Golf is kind of easy. Like you might lose more golf balls, but like you can still hit it usually. But you might lose more golf balls and you might not see where it went. Did I hook it? Did I shank it? I'm not a golfer, but you get the idea. Whereas if you wear contacts or glasses, you now can see it and you're going to be a better golfer, even if it's just that you can see where the pin is, right? And so that's like my analogy is saying that like imagine if you were driving a car without a speedometer. You didn't know how fast you were going. You kind of gauge how fast, but you didn't know. And then, or if you're golfing, you couldn't see where you're actually headed. You're like, I guess it's over that tree somewhere. I don't know. Like those are the analogies that I can give that like using data and measurement in a way that makes sense to you unlocks. And you no longer have that like blurry, fuzzy vision. You no longer have to like put your hand out the window to guess how fast you're going. It might just be windy that day and you're sitting still. Like that could happen. And so those are my analogies for like it's the most unsexy business out there because we're not promising you you're going to get more money, we're going to make you more things. I'm promising you the fact that you will be able to see better. And that is the most unsexy promise on the internet today. So that's my call to action for anybody who has that got this far.
JJ, you are awesome. That was awesome. I'm just thinking too, as soon as you get those glasses on, I didn't get glasses till I was 21. Okay. And I didn't really know I needed them for whatever. I was just a derelict youth. I need glasses. Sure, I do. Whatever. No, I don't. And I was a skier, snowboarder, pro snowboarder. And I finally got glasses and I was like, oh my gosh, depth perception, like all these things, the gates, everything. And I didn't even have to do anything from there. Just the vision it gave me, just like you said, solved a whole lot of problems or made everything a whole lot better. And then if I started even applying it even more, it even made it that much better. I think that's one of the things you're saying. Just having that vision is going to transform, is going to have positive implications if that's all it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like that's like I always say that like in the world of the internet marketing, right? Whether that's email, paid ads, like the ClickFunnels route of like whatever, like buy this thing today or else you'll lose your kidney, whatever it might be. Like the last thing you ever think of is like let's build this in a predictable, measurable way until you have a business that needs to be predictable and measurable. And I say that won't happen until you have one employee. That's what happened for me. Like I was like, let's just send it on every contract that comes in. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I've got enough to cover my expenses. Like, when I was like young and like single and everything else. But the second that you have an employee, I would say even more than like having a kid, like honestly, is like you then have to care about that predictability and know if we're going in the wrong direction, is this going to affect others? And can I correct the ship through measuring everything and improving our performance or improving our direction? And like that's when it really starts to like you really start to say, I need to have this in a way that makes more predictable sense.
Beautiful. I have a coach, and he said, make no mistake, Misha. And this is literally the conversation we had over the last couple of days. And I wrote this down at the top of my paper, of my calendar, my notes. I wrote, make no mistake, I am building a business. I'm building a business and running a business. And I think in the current online marketing space, noise, whatever, live your purpose, heart centered. I drop those terms all the time, or use those terms. All this language, we lose track of the fact that we're running a business. Like I'm building a business.
Yeah, I think that's the case. It's like if you're when you're small, it's like, do you have an offer or do you have a thing that's selling, right? It's like the chasing the fads. And there is a business model there. Like, don't get me wrong. I've met people that um that's what they do. Like like he has a guy that lives in China that sources products as fast as the trend can happen. And he has a team of like 12 people. And their entire business model is to chase the trend. That's it. Like they sold more of those hover scooter things like 10 years ago when they were popular, the ones they stand on. Like when that was the fad, they sold more fidget spinners than anybody else. Like, but like it's not a business model now, right? You can't sell fidget spinners and make money now. But like that's their model is to chase the fad. And that they know it. They're okay with that. But if you're just like a single person who's like, I'm gonna go make a lot of money by selling wood glasses because that's the biggest thing, that's not a business, right? That's not like there's no predictability there. Whereas if like you start saying, okay, my business is chasing the fads, I'm gonna have a new product every month or whatever else, like I have to then build out who's finding the next 20 products that we think could win so we could then do that. So now you have a system in place. And like there's a lot of ways to build. You can build a business on unpredictability because you're willing to be there. But the second that you really dive into the data of it, like you have to have a system and a process and a measurable, replicable system that you use data as inputs to optimize on, even if it is a volatile industry, and that's okay.
Yeah, so good. Who's the lab not for? This lab is not the best fit for a brand new beginner who is completely new to this field or community. Oh, our community tends to engage in more high-level conversations. You don't have to be an expert, but we recommend some familiarity with GA4 and GTM before joining. That's just for anybody listening who someone's going to be stubborn and go, I love this conversation and I love data and analytics and statistics and all that stuff. I don't care. I'm diving in. So
Yeah.
welcome that person, right?
Oh yeah, we've had people hop in and like there's like I think we have like 24 like unique courses plus we have like individual workshops and sprints on top of that. That like every one of those we make them super short and punchy, but like you can go take them all. Like it just is a lot of stuff to absorb and like retain. And so like you can start with zero and just be okay living in zero land until you start like and just be understanding that you're not going to be taking small little steps to start. You have to take some bigger steps to get going. Um, and that's like that's the matter of fact is that like anybody can join. It's an open cart. I will take your money. Um, but like if you're not willing to dive into something that you don't know and be okay not knowing, like we're gonna let you know that you don't know. And that can sometimes be very, very like, I don't know. discouraging, for lack of a better term, is that you think that you know a lot of things and then you get into a bigger pond where other people might know more than you. And the things that you thought you knew, you're not actually right on. And so like that can happen. Like you think that you know how to do it one way, and we're like, actually, here's how you should do it. And if you're not accepting to that, it can become more problematic. And that happens with clients. I kid you not. Like I kid you not. We work with some clients. One client, $100 million a year, big business for anyone's kind of measure of business size, and they didn't know how like their Facebook conversions were showing up in Facebook at all. And we're like, we fixed it for them and they made like an extra 1%, $1 million. Boom. Like it was pretty easy. Like because they were able to acquire people better and had more visibility into things. And the bigger the business, a 1% change is a bigger change than moving a dollar a penny. So there's my
That's
rant. A little bit
love
ranty.
it.
Sorry, guys. It's
Awesome.
my second cup of coffee, so a little bit ranty today. Hopefully, it was enjoyable. And feel free, like honestly, like if you find me on LinkedIn, JJ Reynolds, my email is JJ at Vision Labs. Like, don't have to do rocket science to figure that out. Like, if you have questions or like email, like I'm super open to connecting.
Dude, I love the rants. I am so glad you are in rant mode and had a couple of cups of coffee. This is a ton of fun. I'm imagining as I'm looking at your lab, the lab, that man, if I had a bigger business, I would be sending my team into this. And I'm imagining you have people that send team into here. They're like, hey, start learning some of this stuff or dive into this. Yes?
Yeah. We even have we have a lot of team people on there that are either in-house, either they pay for it themselves or they have their like employer pay for it. We also have like a Teams Plus account that like is again not even on the website, but if you email me asking about it, where we actually open up a dedicated Slack channel or channel in our community where only your team is and then our team is as well. So you can ask like private questions, right? Like more easily. Um, and so like that's a whole other thing where people like we have a couple like government agencies, like like government companies, like California, like not California, but like a state government that their team is like in there. So you can like email me. There's not really another way to get there. So again, bad marketing on my front, but like we can see that we really strive on doing it as opposed to marketing that we know how to do it.
Oh my God. Hey, you guys are crushing it. Are you? Are you guys crushing it right now?
Oh, we're having a great time, honestly. Like it's a really a fun business. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Okay, I've got two more questions and then I'll let you get back to your day. So, number one, and I'm gonna let you decide which one to answer first. So I'll just tell you both, and then you can go whichever direction you want. Political cycles coming, and people are going to start spending stupid money on social media ads and all this kind of stuff, and cold email outreach and DMing and all this stuff, and it's going to throw ROIs and KPIs and everything sideways. Yes, that's a story that I'm hearing. What are your thoughts on that? So that I'll just go ahead, riff on that for a minute.
Yeah, well, I will say that like every media platform that you're buying media is an auction. And so if someone's willing to spend more, like they'll be there. And I'm not a media buyer, so like again, I always like say I know a lot of things about different traffic sources, but like I don't like run them. But like if it's an auction, and more people are bidding, you're going to spend more. I think that's probably a reason why maybe like adding cost caps as like a function of the platform would be helpful. Again, I'm not a media buyer, but like if I was running media, I would probably use cost caps as my function. I don't not advice, like it's not legal advice by any means. Um, and so I think that's probably something that like is gonna come into play. Is it will increase cost, like your cost per thousand views is probably gonna go up, your CPM. But like if you're optimizing for cost and depending on your market, depending on the thing, like I would just pencil in a 20% budget increase for the same outcome. And if your business can't survive on that, like you probably should figure out something down the funnel further because 20% increase is going to happen like in the next 2 years anyways. So like you should probably start penciling that in anyways, even if it's just for a month. That's my like hot take.
Good one, JJ. Love it. Thank you. Next, we've talked a lot about the lab, which has been awesome and enlightening and a ton of fun. But you also have your agency side of the work. Uh, Maybe pretend the person who's got a 5, 10, 20, $30 million business, $40 million business is listening, watching, and you have 3 minutes to speak to them about, how you're serving. Like, yeah,
Yeah, like if you don't know what to do next, if your company like is really struggling to understand what actions to take and where people are coming from and how people are finding you, and you want to have people that understand how marketing functions as an operation and how to build reporting that makes sense to you, then you should contact us. And even if you're not there, like honestly, I always encourage people to just book a call, like go to the contact page. I'm sure, I think it's in the menu, just like hit contact us. You'll talk to me. We don't have like a sales team. Like I'm marketing and sales for our agency right now. So we have like fulfillment and that's like, you'll talk to those people, but like I will be the one you talk to on the sales call. Um, and so like if that's a problem that you're running into and you don't have the actual visibility, you don't, or you're spending an absurd amount of time, like that's another thing, is that like we will often free up an entire team member of your team whose job was like the technical marketing. And that's happened. I think one of our like a client that joined with us, I think 6 months ago, like that's like their biggest unlock. It's not even the reporting, it's not even all the things. It's like we're cheaper than hiring somebody full time. And that person that was doing it can do something else because they are able to do that. And so that's a whole other aspect. That's not like our normal pitch, but like if any of those things resonate with you, then feel free to book a call. And again, usually it's $5 million is kind of the basic. Like I'd say generally there are less depending on your business model. Like info as a business can usually be higher profit margin, so it makes more sense. Whereas e-commerce, I'd say 25 million is where you should be because you have cost of goods. And so it just depends on your model that you have.
cool. And you just made me think of something else. You spoke to somebody who's got $25 million in revenue, $5 million in revenue or more. And you basically said, and you don't know where your customers are coming from or how it's working or what's going on. I'm imagining people don't like to admit that. I just had the stark realization that there's companies out there that's going to be a block from them from picking up the phone or sending
Yeah,
you yeah,
definitely. Like this business that we run is very like difficult because it's very technical and it's very strategic. And like we have to understand how paid media works, how organic works, how all these things work. Even though we're not doing it, we have to understand how it works. So your business, we understand how it's running, right? The thing that sucks is that I have a very high close rate on a call. If you book a call with me, I know you have a problem and usually we can solve it. So our close rate is extremely high. My goal is to have the close rate lowered because that means I'm having more conversations with people who are unqualified. And like, which is really funny because that's the opposite problem. If you're running paid ads or whatever else, like you'll close like 20% of deals. But like for us, because we're so specialized and we're so niche and we're so good at what we do, is that if you book a call, usually you've got a problem and you've tried other solutions. You've tried software, you've tried contractors on Upwork, you've tried having your team upskill, and it's just not working. And that's why you need an agency that this is what we specialize in. And we're unbiased. We don't run ads, we don't build landing pages, we don't do any of the thing. We can tell you like it's true, and you can have other agencies. Most of our clients have other agencies they work with that run ads that do things, but we're unbiased. Like we'll tell you exactly what's happening.
I love that. It's not like you're trying to uh, provide numbers so that you can squeeze more revenue or sell another product or give it another chance or what have you. It's like, here's the facts. Here's how you can act on them with everybody that you have in place. Do it or don't,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Um, Typically, I'm imagining too, everybody's budgetary conscious of their budget. Usually people are coming to you in a whole lot of pain, so they're probably willing to spend money to solve that problem. People have a pretty quick positive ROI on their interactions with you.
Yeah, as long as they do something. Like that's the thing is like we're not doing the thing. We will walk you to the door of insight. We will say, look out there, look at all the actions you can take, but we're not going to take any of those actions for you. And that is like we're leaving value on the table, meaning that we probably could charge more and say we'll just do it for you, right? But like we don't. We are a measurement agency, and that's what we do, and we're very good at it. And we help you ask better questions. And as you ask better questions, we'll help you with build the reporting for that. Like that will happen where you'll have questions that we don't have reports for. We don't have a way of answering that. But your question is valid. We validate that it makes sense. You know what to do with the answer once you have it. And then we can go down the investigation path of building that report, right? That's like the beauty of it. And so most people have an ROI, right? Like I can't speak to the exact ROI. It's very hard to be like, this is the exact ROI. But like in general, like we charge between like 50 and 100 grand a year. Like that's like usually what it comes out to be. And so like in that range of like, if that makes sense to you, then it's like, oh, hey, this makes a lot of sense to us.
That's cool. Do you have the moment? Is your favorite part where you go, oh my gosh, we got to create a new report?
I think my favorite part is like when people see something and their eyes light up of like they didn't understand before, like how everything was working together, and then they know what to do. And I will say there is a direct correlation between the sophistication of you as a marketer and what you know what to do with. Like we started this conversation with, right? A 17% or 14% click-through rate on your email. If you don't know what to do with that information, no amount of reporting is going to help you at all. It won't help at all. And so the light up for me is when people see these numbers that they knew that they wanted, they knew that they had an idea of what to do with them, and they can go act on them every single week, every single month. And they know that like, hey, I can go check back on here. And we were at a 1% click-through rate, and now we're at 6. And you could look at your email performance. Like there's a lot of other things that come into play here. And I try to simplify it as much as possible for these conversations. But like that's the general idea is if you know what to do and you can go and do it, then we're an awesome partner. If you don't know what to do and you don't know what you're doing, then probably go find someone that can just run ads, right? Like that's what you need. You need someone to just do the thing, and regardless of if it works or not. But when you're in pain because you don't know what you're doing, like that's where we work with people.
Yeah, it's good stuff, JJ. Thank you. I want to be cognizant of your time before we hit start on this interview. I said, hey, there's a great chance we'll go an hour. Do we have a hard stop? And you said, let me send an email to my team, let them know I perhaps will be a few minutes late. And I know we're butting strongly up against that that time. So I want to be very cognizant of the time. So before I hit stop here, is there anything inevitably when I hit stop, somebody goes, "Ah, I wished I'd have said, or I meant to talk about, or something like that. Is there anything that comes to your mind?
No, I think in general, we've touched on most things. I'd say just ask better questions is going to be your step one. And then knowing how to get those answers is step two. And if you can then act on that is step three, right? Like if you can do those three things, you don't even need us, right? And just do those predictably over and over again in a methodical way, and you'll be in a better spot next month than you were this month.
Yeah, it's a good formula for life right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, JJ, I'm going to hit stop and we'll say goodbye offline.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.